If you've ever wondered what going pro might look like, specifically as an amateur player trialing overseas in Europe with professional clubs, then in this video I'm going to talk about the only two real pathways for you. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Alan Jarrett. I'm a full-time football agent and the founder of Australia's largest player agency, Elite Football. We work with over 25 professional clubs across Europe, South America, and the Middle East. And already this year, we've already signed 4 players to professional contracts and scholarships with pro clubs. So what are the two pathways set out for amateur players when you're going overseas to Europe to trial, right? In my opinion, every player comes to me and they say, I want to go pro, right? But there's a few conditions that come with wanting that. The first being that usually everyone wants to go as high as possible, right? It's very rare someone comes to me and they says, look, Alan, I want to be as realistic as possible. There's different conditions that obviously separate the two categories. And if you're someone that is unsure and you're wanting to actually chat about it with myself or one of the other agents that work for me in my company, there's a link down below to my website. You can go on and apply for a free consultation where we'll just run you down and answer all your questions, right? My team is more than happy to help. But pretty much to separate them a little bit, it's you either go as high as possible, so we're focusing on your Division 1, Division 2 clubs, or you're going to be as realistic as possible and we're going to focus on your Div 3, 4, 5, right? Professional clubs. So I'm going to talk about both and I'm going to separate them by age as well, so you understand what that funnel and what that pathway is going to look like, whether you're 15, 16, 17, 18, or if you're 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, right? So because both experiences are going to be different for both age groups. Let's start off with the first, going as high as possible. So if we focus on a Division 1, Division 2 club, the majority of these clubs have huge setups. They run everything very well and they're very, very big clubs, right? You know, first, second division, you're talking about clubs that have a lot of money, clubs that have a lot of foundation, and things are gonna be really good. So regardless of your age, you're gonna have a really good experience because everything is set out properly. Now, the way that the funnel works for you fly over, you land day one, right? The way these bigger clubs separate for international amateur players is they have an international section in the club. So if you go into the right club, for example, with us, we send players directly to the club, but they'll be staying at the residency of the club and they're trialing at the moment that they land with the international team squad of the club. And in there, you're gonna have characters that are there to trial from all over the world. You're gonna have people that are there just to develop from all over the world. And it's gonna be, you know, morning sessions, afternoon sessions. Now, your aim is to perform so well there that you get invited to trial with, in this case, just train with their youth team, right? So if you're 18 and younger, you can still make it into their youth team. So what do I mean by that? Let's just use Spain as an example. Spain, their youth finishes at under 19s. So the caveat with it finishing at under 19s is that if you're 18, you're considered a third year juvenil, which pretty much just means third year youth player. And they're not wanting to sign 18-year-olds for their under 19s team. They're wanting 18-year-olds to be good enough to be part of their senior squads. So if you're 18, it's a bit tricky because you're kind of like on the cuff where technically, depending on your date of birth, you might still be eligible for the under 19s, but realistically, you're going to be sort of focusing on their senior teams, which I'll get to in a moment. So 17 and 18 on the cup and lower, your aim is to perform in the international area and get invited to train with their youth team and perform there, right? And so it's a period of time. Most of my players take a month just to adapt. Some players hit the ground running after 2 days, they get invited and they're already training with the youth team. Some players, unfortunately, just never do. They never get invited to train with the youth team. So it's really up in the air. Every player is individual, every player is different. There's a lot of variables that go into it, but that's the funnel. If you're going high, Div 1, Div 2, you go to the international area and you're trying to prove yourself there to then be able to go into their sort of youth teams and train there, right? If you are 18 and over, right, and you're wanting to go as high as possible still, your funnel's a bit different. You still have the same international area to train at, but you can't make their under 19s team. So what happens? You are now gonna have to make their C team. So when you get invited to train, you're gonna go and you're gonna train with their C team, right? Or if you're not good enough for their C team, because most clubs have their A team, you know, the first division team that you see, you know, on TV, their B team, you know, if their A team's a first division club, right? Their B team probably competing in like the third division or something, right? And then they also have a C team. Their C team might be competing in like the 5th division, right? So you've got C, B, and A. For most clubs that are in the first, second division, that's their system that they run. Some have a D team, but those are the pretty dodgy ones. So your aim is international area to be invited to the C team. If the C team doesn't work because you're not good enough yet for the C team, these big clubs, what they also have is they have agreements to sister clubs in the region. So what do I mean by that? There might be a 5th division club, right, in the region that this 1st division club actually owns maybe like 80% of, or maybe the whole lot, and they work together. So a club might go, yep, we really like Tim, is not quite ready for the C team, but we see potential in him, and he's 18. So we're going to sign him for us, and we're going to loan him out to our sister club that competes in the 5th division, get him some game time for a year, see how he works, see if he performs well, and then hopefully he'll be ready to move into our C team, and etc, etc. So that is the funnel, whether you're young, whether you're a little bit older. If you're going to Div 1 and Div 2 clubs, that's what to expect as an amateur player trying to break through in that system. If you are wanting the other pathway, going as realistic as possible, you know, 3rd, 4th, 5th division, a few reasons why you might want that is because you might be a bit older, you might be 20, you might be 21, you might not have that much time left, you might not have that much money, you know, your parents or you go, it's expensive, like these trips overseas are expensive, so we'll go, okay, let's reduce our risk and just go as realistic as possible because, you know, sometimes getting that scholarship, getting that contract is a difference from being able to keep being overseas and keep progressing year after year to, damn, I gotta come back now and I gotta go to uni because mum's pressuring me to do that. So your age is gonna play a factor, your financial situation is gonna play a factor, but the players that are looking to go low, 3rd, 4th, 5th division, your funnel's a bit different. So these clubs aren't big enough to have an international area, so you don't have the luxury of being able to get eased in to the waters of training and playing, and sort of you even just have like a backup area because, you know, you can't get kicked out of the international, or you can get kicked out because of disciplinary issues, but you always have a base of training, right? Assuming you're a responsible player and person, you're always going to be able to train mornings and afternoons with this team. When you go lower, you don't have that. So if you're 15, 16, 17, you know, 18 and younger, when you go to like a 3rd or 4th or 5th division team, you'll just go straight into their under 19s to train, right? They're not big enough to care about, you know, whether you're good enough or not. They're going to give you a shot straight away. And so the cons is if you go alone and this happens, you might just get kicked out after a week or after the first session because you might not be good enough. If you're going through an agent, you know, or whoever, then this is less likely to happen. But that's the cons, is that there's pros because you are avoiding that long funnel of having to work your way up and earn the spot. But there's also the pro of, you know, you go straight in, but you might not be ready to go straight in. So there's pros and cons to both situations. But if you're 18, for example, you'd probably go straight into the under 19s. Maybe you're good enough to play there and you get signed and it's just easy access. But really 18, 19, 20, you're gonna be working for the first team. And unfortunately, if you're 20, getting a trial with these first division clubs that are in the 3rd, 4th, 5th divisions, it's really difficult. It's really difficult to be seen. And these clubs are like, they want established players. They want players that have already gotten contracts, that have already sort of competed. So it's really going to take a bit of magic from an agent like myself or someone else to try and fit you into that system. But essentially what's been the case with most players, I even had like a 20-year-old that has gone over and wanted to go lower, and he was training with the under 19s and he'd also get some trainings with the first team as well. So they'll gauge to see your level, and really your aim is to make that first team because you don't really have another option. Like there is no C team, there's no B team, there's no sister club that they're going to refer you to. It's just that. So while you get the pros of you going direct, and it might be easier for some players, like some players, common thing that they say to me is, well, I struggle playing with worse players. So when I'm in the international areas, I don't perform. So I guess for those players, they're going to find it easier to just go into like a high intensity and a certain level. But the cons is that when you go high, you've got C teams, B teams, sister clubs, like youth categories. Like there's more options within the one club than when you go lower. But essentially that's the two different experiences, the two different pathways in general, like not going too deep with everything, but in general, that's what's going to be like. Whether you go high or whether you go low, that's the funnel to experience for amateur players. In terms of what I recommend would be better is that obviously striking everyone with the same stroke. If you are 17 and younger, I'd say to go as high as possible. If you're 18 and over, I'd say to go as realistic as possible. That's just keeping it to the rule generally, but you know, we work with players, and when we have those consultations, when people come on board with our player station program, we get an idea of what it is that they want and what it is that they're looking for. And there's so many factors, like it's not just age, you know, you've got positions, you've got time of year that you're going overseas, you've got what the player wants as well, because at the end of the day, you've got to wake up and you've got to actually perform. And a lot of players that get pressured into going going super realistic, I try and run them through the mental game of, let's just say you go overseas, you go to a 4th division team, and you're there for a few months, and bam, you get a contract or you get a scholarship, and they pay for everything, and you can be there for a full year competing. How would that make you feel? Would you feel like that was success, or would you feel like, damn, I wish I tried higher? Because depending on your answer to that situation, you're gonna get a better idea of what it is your risk tolerance is, and whether you should try higher first or if you should go lower. So things like that, and also highlights, CVs, all this sort of things that we evaluate with the team. Some players that are older should go higher. So I don't want to brush everyone with the same stroke. It's more about understanding what it is that you want to do and what to experience. So if you are interested and you are wanting to have a chat with an agent, have a free consultation, link is down below. Go to the website, talk to me or one of my agents that work with me. It's fully free, and we'll be able to answer all your questions.